Yay. How was that lunch? Did everyone enjoy the shed? Yeah? Good. My name's Stephanie De La Garza. I'm the Donor Relations Director for the Community Foundation of Abilene. We are a nonprofit grant maker here in the community, and we are sponsoring this session today, so we're glad that you all are joining us. Since 1985, the foundation has empowered people to make a lasting charitable impact on our community. Our vision is a thriving Abilene endowed forever. At its core, the Community Foundation is a powerhouse of possibility. We're a catalyst for change, a hub for hope, a force for good. Our mission is simple yet profound. We connect donors to causes they care about. We manage strategic investments to preserve our endowments. We make grants that align with donor intent and respond to community needs, while providing philanthropic leadership to enhance Abilene's future. But we can't do it alone. That's where you all come in. Whether you're a business leader, a philanthropist, or a concerned citizen, your support is crucial to our success. On May 7th, we're hosting Abilene Gives Day, where 173 nonprofits are raising funds to support the great work that they do here in Abilene. It's a day of giving back and making a tangible impact. Please consider making a donation to nonprofits that inspire you on May 7th from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. You can do that by visiting AbileneGives.org. We're also proud of initiatives like the Open Road Concert Series on the rooftop of the Grace Museum and the Future Fund of Abilene, a membership-based endowment where funds are pulled together and granted to support nonprofits serving children and youth. The Future Fund has granted over $1 million since its inception and over $90,000 during this year's grant cycle. You can become a Future Fund member by visiting our website, cfabilene.org. So I challenge you, donate to causes you care about, volunteer your time, or serve on a nonprofit board. Your actions, big or small, can make an incredible difference. Thank you for choosing this breakout session, A Beginner's Guide to Board Leadership. I want to roll the floor over to my friend and fellow AYP member, Cameron Wiley. A little bit about Cameron, if you all don't know him. Cameron has served on many nonprofit boards and has won several awards for his volunteer work. These include the President's Volunteer Service Award and two-time winner of Dias Volunteer of the Year. Cameron has been a board member of multiple organizations, including chairman of AYP, Cancer Services Network, Day Nursery of Abilene, Make-A-Wish North Texas. Cameron is the chair of the Big Country VOAD and account executive for the United Way of Abilene and is a current trustee of Wiley ISD.
Like a Swiss Army knife. Well, good afternoon. How y'all doing? There we go. That's what I'm talking about. So I'm honored and privileged to get to moderate this session with three people I absolutely have admire and really just am honored to get to talk to them. Been really just admiring them for years, but whether it's between me and Katie and trying to figure out Wiley tennis court lights, which we got, by the way, me and Trav and probably the 5 or 6 group chats that we have randomly, or Marcus having the same, we're brothers, by the way, Marcus Wiley. I'm kidding, we're not brothers, but we just started telling people that. So let me introduce y'all to our panel, okay? So first off, we have Katie Alford. She's the president and CEO of Community Foundation of Abilene. And she also does a lot of work with, she's also on the Abilene Chamber of Commerce Military Affairs Committee and serves as the honorary commander for the 49th Bomb Group. So she is very, very involved, as you can see. I mean, Stephanie, you said 173 nonprofits for Abilene Gives, right? Something like that? But I think there's like 200 plus actually in our area. I mean, just tons of nonprofits. So next we have Trav Ruiz. He's a senior corporate recruiter for Nexstar Media. And if I don't mention KTAB, KRBC, and Telemundo, he'll probably throw something very hard at my head. So is that right, Trav? Yes. Okay, all right. Trav is, he's also the current board chairman for Big Brothers Big Sisters of Abilene, and is the immediate past chair for the Hispanic Business Council. Additionally, Trav is the incoming board chair for the Abilene Convention and Visitors Bureau, and he is also on the board of directors for Goodwill West Texas, and in the past, he has served on boards for Big Country Casa and the Abilene Chamber of Commerce and a lot more. And I think, yeah, I said Goodwill West Texas. Next, we have Marcus Wiley, again, not brothers. He is the director of 211 Texas West Central Texas and the director of community impact for the United Way. He also is on the Goodwill West Texas board, the Abilene Education Foundation board, and is who I actually answer to for the Big Country VOAD, which stands for Volunteers of Active Disasters. It's a nonprofit that's fairly new. We're in year 2 of our conception, but we basically are a community Rolodex that activates whenever we have natural disasters in our area. So one of those examples would be like the Mesquite Heat Fire. If y'all are around for that, we played a pretty big part in that. So thank y'all for allowing me to ask y'all a bunch of questions. So we'll get to it. I do want to leave some time for y'all to ask questions as well. This is a breadth of knowledge up here, and not only just with our board topic, but also just anything in our community. All right. So I want to give y'all plenty of time to do that. All right, y'all ready? Does that mic work? Mic check?
Mic check.
Perfect. All right. So the first question is, can you share your journey into board leadership? And I'll even kind of expand on that, just board membership, right? What inspired you to pursue that path, whichever board that, you've been on, and how do you navigate your early experiences?
Great question, Cameron.
Follow it myself.
Yeah. All right. So I think it all starts with, first of all, the desire to want to be involved in the community. How do you want to get involved in your community? For me, it was growing up in a small town in Oklahoma. And I didn't see anyone in leadership positions that looked like me, and I didn't realize that, hey, I could also be like that banker who drove a BMW. And so it all started with that. How can I get to that point? And so for me, it was about pursuing a career that allowed me to be able to be active in my community. So, if you're thinking about wanting to get involved or more involved in your community, I think first of all, it's got to come from the right spot of you wanting to be active and be involved in your community for the greater good, right? The second thing I'll say is that you want to be on a board, and you need your support of the organization or company that you work for. I was very fortunate in that my involvement in nonprofits has always been another leg of my employment, because community, work in the community is a big part of many businesses, right? So doing that, and then it's you saying yes, right? So you've got to also seek those opportunities. If there's something you're passionate about, are you passionate about disasters? I don't know if you can be passionate about disasters. Maybe helping others in disasters, right? Or you're passionate about helping children find success. Passionate about literacy. There's a lot of things finding that. So I think that those are important things for you to think about.
Yeah, and I come at it from a little bit of a different perspective coming from the Community Foundation. We work with many nonprofits and see and work with their boards, kind of get to see the governance models that each of them have. I serve on a couple myself, and I think for myself it's the passion or the interest in the mission. But what I always tell the young professionals or people who are wanting to get involved, I love that Abilene is the size that we are. We're a very unique sized community where it's kind of a medium-sized, small community. I don't know, it's not too big, but it's not too small. And like Cameron said, we have a lot of nonprofits to choose from. Pretty much any field of interest that you'd be passionate about, we've got somebody in our community addressing that. So I think you've got to have the passion for what board you would serve on. Sometimes we even tell people to volunteer beforehand to get to really know the organization and know that you align with what their passions are, their mission is, and then maybe that next step is to kind of get on their board and serve in a bigger way. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that entails. But I really would encourage you, if you're interested, take that leap, take that step. There are a lot of opportunities out there and a lot of board members. There's a lot of nonprofits in this room right now, and I think they're here to see who's here, so they can see kind of additional people to pull from, because they're all needing great leaders, and obviously you being here today shows that you want that leadership and you want that professional development.
Yeah, I was going to say, there are a lot of nonprofits out here. If you're a nonprofit or work at a nonprofit, raise your hand.
They're all judging us right now.
Yeah, because there are a lot of good nonprofits out here to choose from, and it's overwhelming. And so, and compared to these two sitting next to me, I'm a little new into the board world. I'm in this learning phase of what board do I want to serve on? Where do my passions align? When approaching a board, if I want to serve on it, Travis was right. Getting that professional experience from your employer, I look at it as how can this intersect with my personal interests and skills, and then how does this interest with my professional interests and skills, and do those overlap? And if so, with the Education Foundation at United Way, we care about the education and the impact of education and the well-being of our children. And so serving on the Education Foundation there, I can see what they're doing. And then same thing with Goodwill, with the workforce. They're focused on employing, breaking down barriers, not putting up barriers to employment. And United Way cares deeply about breaking those down and the financial stability. And so there are nonprofits in this room. If you're looking to be on a board, there are tons of good ones here already who each board runs differently depending upon the mission and the leadership.
And I will add that never be afraid to volunteer to be on a board. I think there's a misconception there that, you have to be so qualified and have certain check boxes in your life done to volunteer for a board. I think, Katie said it, volunteer first. It's all passion based. And I'll be honest with you, I was, when I first started being an Air Force guy and I know some DICE people are in here, for a while there, we were part of our promotion and our evaluations was volunteerism and community engagement. And that's kind of changed a little bit over the years, but still, I was guilty of actually maybe saying yes too much, right? Spreading myself too thin and volunteering in roles that maybe I wasn't passionate enough for. And that ultimately hindered the board I was on because I just wasn't given 100% of my all. So I would say find your passion and don't be afraid to jump in. All right, question 2. What are the key responsibilities of a board member, particularly for someone new to board leadership, and how do these responsibilities differ from other leadership roles?
Yeah, so I think Stephanie handed out a handout called Responsibilities of a Board Member. This is kind of a good summary. Different organizations have different board structures or different expectations based on kind of maybe even the life cycle or the management style that they have. If they're an all-volunteer board versus they have paid staff, they look different across and how many board members are on there, if it's an affiliate board or the true board of the nonprofit. But this is a pretty good summary of those main responsibilities. The one that people get really hung up on and scared about is the fundraising side of a board member. For us, a lot of that we call it more friend raising, and so as long as you are able to introduce people to an organization and to friend raise, be the ambassador, that's a huge part of what board members' roles are and what they need to be doing with their friends, with their community, with their network. And if you're able to do that, a lot of times just introductions or getting people to be passionate about the mission, like Abilene Gives is coming up. A lot of times the board members are sending out texts or emails or posting on their social media page to promote those nonprofits they care about. That is like great fundraising right there, and it's very, you're not going to ask your best friend for $500. But then there are some organizations, and I'm sure Trav will talk about that in just a second, there are some organizations, they tell you that expectation up front. But there are a lot of other different responsibilities. A lot of it's management of the CEO, or not management, but you oversee the CEO. That's a huge one. If you do have a paid CEO, just being a good board member, showing up, preparing, doing the things that you need to be doing as one of those leaders of the organization. But I'm going to pass it to Trav because I think he's got some good stuff on this.
Thanks, Katie. So I think the first job to me of being a board member is being a good ambassador. Katie mentioned the word ambassador. You're being a representative of the organization at all times. I'm wearing the Big Brothers Big Sisters lapel pin today. Very proud, and there's some flyers, some brochures around there too, by the way. So consider being a big brother or big sister.
They're recruiting.
Yeah, there you go. So it's being an ambassador like that. I think that's the first thing, right? We want your influence. We want to be able to count on you, your company, your friends, your peers, and like Katie said, it's friend raising, right? A lot of nonprofits will have a get ask, and what that means is we want you to either get or give a certain number, and it might be $1,000, it might be $2,000. And I know as young people, oftentimes that can be daunting. It's like, I literally need to go to poorhouse tonight. I don't want to get, those sorts of things, right? And I know that it's hard to think of like donating money whenever you're young and you've just started making money. Maybe you've got kids. That might come first, and that's the point I'm trying to get across. But it shouldn't be thought of as daunting. You can make simple, small. I think it's important that you as a board member, you do give financially in some form, because it's an investment that you show that you care about this mission. And I'm not saying it has to be $1,000 a month. It can be $25 a month or not. That's one Starbucks a month, pretty much, right? So think about it that way. And then, it's like Katie said, fundraising, friend raising, and, helping to get to the point where, hey, my company's willing to sponsor this. It's almost organic that you're able to raise that money. And I'm hard-pressed to find a board that's going to be like, oh, well, Brittany, you didn't raise, you were $100 underneath your goal, you're gone. I don't think you're going to get that. We need doers too, right? So we need people who are going to volunteer for events, and this is for all nonprofits. We need doers, and frankly, younger people are good doers. So I think don't be scared by that, if you will.
Yeah, I am in my role more focused on the impact of the work that we do at United Way, and I do have that unique, I do serve on a couple boards, but I do communicate with our board at United Way. And as a nonprofit, one of the biggest things that, yeah, fundraising, but I try to stay away from fundraising. I get to spend the money that we raise, and that's my thing is I'm typically asking for volunteers. I'm typically getting ideas from our board members of, hey, have you thought about doing this? That is a great idea. I'll get it going. Can you help me get that going? And so in the capacity as a board member, I do know that the financial piece is a little harder for me, but I have the time. I have the time to show up, and I have the flexibility to show up, and I don't have kids. And so in that, I know that I'm giving my equity and time when others cannot. And on the side of the nonprofit, that ability to say, hey, I want to volunteer here, I may not be given here. The time commitment is important, I think, when considering a board. There are board meetings. Some meet quarterly, some meet every month, some meet every other month. It just differs, and these are conversations or questions to ask the executive director or the board chair that you're considering is, hey, what's the time commitment in addition to the financial commitment? And be honest with that ability to commit, and that's where it becomes important. If you don't care about education, don't go to an education nonprofit. If you care about movies, go talk to George at the Paramount. That would be a fun one. If you care about art, there's more than just the basic needs. There's entertainment, arts, culture, and Abilene has it all. And so from my perspective, yeah, showing up is important, and that's how you get into the leadership roles before, because if you're not showing up, you're not going to be considered for a leadership role or to lead a committee or to lead any task force or initiative that the nonprofit wants to take on. And so showing up for me is huge. Just being there. It's nice as a nonprofit to see your board members there. That shows support, even if they're just standing around with the hands in the pockets or asking what can I do to help.
Big picture is, as a board member, really anywhere, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, but as a board member, at the 10,000 foot level, we help govern the leadership and we help establish the budget, right? We approve the budget for that organization. But to their point, in terms of like volunteering your time, whether it's elbow grease and just your time and effort into a volunteering event for that organization, or fundraising that goes directly to the mission, you have an opportunity from a professional development standpoint to really be good stewards of those dollars, right? And to show the community that, hey, these dollars that you're donating to a cause that I'm passionate about are going to these things, and really being able to govern to make sure that those dollars are working exactly the way that you're kind of putting yourself out for, right? All right, so next question, what advice would you give someone who is new to serving on a board? And are there any common pitfalls or misconceptions they should be aware of?
Yeah, I think some advice would be obviously know the organization, and I think organizations will be really great about making sure that you are well versed on what that organization does, and they may have an orientation or a retreat or something that'll get you involved with that. But once again, you've gotta be able to have an elevator pitch, right? Because once you're the ambassador, so know what you're representing, and the other thing I'll say is and they'll teach you and you'll learn how to go through things. But Cameron just mentioned financials and that sort of thing. A lot of us may not be accustomed to looking at here's the year-to-date financials 1 month versus this, and individual giving versus corporate giving or whatnot. I think that those are important things, and so asking questions is never a bad thing, because we want to be sure that we're being good stewards of people's money, right? It's your money too that we're putting in there. So I think that's important to think of that. But be willing to say yes. It's okay to say no from time to time. I think that's important. Just be upfront and honest with folks. If you're on a board, like, hey, I can commit to this, but I'm going to Mexico for 2 weeks, so I can't be here for this. Those things happen, and life is there. And I think we are in a different time in the world where we need flexibility in the world. And the same thing can be said for nonprofits, right? So you give, and when you can, and you make it work, right? So I think that's important.
I would agree with Travis that asking a lot of questions up front is probably your best preparation for what's going to be expected. On that same sheet of responsibilities of a board member, a little bit past halfway are questions to ask, and these are just some examples. There are a lot of other ones out there, but Travis mentioned earlier there are some boards who have a policy of give or get. Well, you need to know how much that is before you go in there, what that expectation is, because if you're not willing or able to meet those, then you probably need to say no, which is fine. As Trev said, it's okay to say no. You also probably need to know the terms. Are you going to have a 6-year term, 2 3-year terms? Is it a life sentence? What does that look like, and what can you give? The other is, are they in good financial position? Is there a change in leadership coming up that you need to know about? Things that could, if you've got busy things going on in your life and you're not going to be able to commit some extra time over the next year or two, and there's some big things coming up like a capital campaign or things with the organization, you need to know those. So I would say, to avoid most pitfalls. Now, some people get in there and there's things that you can't even expect or imagine that just happens. There's going to be some challenges that may pop up, but to just be prepared to know what you're capable of doing and willing to do is good for the organization, because they need good board members. They need ones who are going to be committed and who can serve and who can be there present, and if that includes volunteer hours or whatever that looks like. And if you're not that person, it's better for the organization to be able to go on to the next person. And maybe your time is in 3 years from now or 5 years from now, but just being willing to be honest with yourself, be honest with the organization after hearing those answers.
I would agree. I think they said it all. I mean, yeah, asking good questions. So when you think about this, think about your skills. For me, I talk to people that are like, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to give. Like, if you are good at taking pictures, I guarantee you a nonprofit needs a good picture taker, photographer, or a good graphic designer, or someone who's good with their hands to build something for them, or IT, like, oh my gosh, IT. So I think that is, for me, a common misconception is that you may not be skilled in nonprofit or finance or governance, but you might be good at something else, and bringing that to the table is important, and it's an asset to that nonprofit, and so that's mine.
And, I'm going to say a little bit of a biased statement here, but, for me personally and my involvement, in my personal involvement, like, I really have zero skin in the game in terms of financial impact, right? Like, I don't own a business. I can't sponsor an event that some of these nonprofits put on. Like, I'm not in a position, I'm a retired military guy, and I'm married to a teacher, and unfortunately, those are two very important career fields that don't make nearly what they deserve. So, but needless to say, like they were saying, your volunteerism, just you being there and showing up and helping set up and helping run the event, that's a lot. I mean, that's a huge part of serving on a board. It doesn't have to always be that financial commitment or whatever it may be. So don't be afraid to if that's all you can give, then that's enough, I think. Ready for the next one? Yeah. All right. So can y'all share an example of a challenging decision you've had to make as a board member, and how did you approach it, and what did you learn from the experience?
With every one of the nonprofit boards that I've served on, I've actually had to go through the process of hiring a new executive director. And to me, that's one of the most important decisions for an organization, one of the most challenging and one of the most pressured decisions, because it really makes or breaks that next really cycle or flow of the next set of governance and leadership of that organization, and maybe the mission and the challenges that are going to come up are going to be controlled and dealt with by this leadership. And so I think that for me has always been one of the biggest responsibilities of an organization, because if you get the wrong one, you can lose your staff or your team, and then as a board you have bigger problems, and as an organization you have bigger problems. So I think that just having that as one of your responsibilities, understanding that going in and knowing that there might be some change, but knowing that that is a big decision that's coming up and maybe on your shoulders has always been one of those hard ones for me.
I will say the same thing. We went through at Big Brothers Big Sisters. We sadly lost who was our executive director, Mark Rogers, and I was board chair when that happened. And obviously, going through that, moving through that, and through this with the staff, and he was all our friend, is its own thing, certainly. But it was about moving forward and finding the right person for that job, to forge a path forward, for us to keep the legacy going. And so, that was a very sensitive time. And what we decided to do was really bring in community folks who were really stakeholders in the community. Katie was one of the ones who sat through all of our interviews as we went through our executive director candidates. We felt that was really important, because the organization is not, it's the community's organization, and so we found that very important to get folks like her, the police chief, superintendents. We found that very important. So that by far was the hardest thing, and of course we landed with the best person in the world possible to
She's right here.
do that. Yes, Talon, really good. And switching gears real quick, Danielle, I'll say this, and correct me if I'm wrong. Danielle works for Goodwill, West Texas, and there was a time many years ago, before I was even a part of Goodwill. Goodwill was not doing great here in Abilene. Am I correct to say that the board members took out loans in their name to be able to keep Goodwill West Texas afloat? Yes. Those board members signed away their lives because they believed in the mission, and you're not going to do that with every day. I promise you that. But fast forward to today, where Goodwill is in one of the best positions it's ever been in across the country, really. So I'll say that I know that those are some hard decisions as well. But you can be prepared for decisions, but you don't know what's ahead, unfortunately. But you've got to think and take input from all those around you.
Talking about the VOAD, Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster, that was an organization that I inherited in my position at United Way, and that one was probably one of the most challenging ones for me to date, because it was sitting dormant in an advisory council. And if you've ever been in the disaster response space, those are personalities that are very strong and very passionate. And Trav, you're right. Like, you have to love disasters. You have to love helping people, and that adrenaline. And I
don't like disasters.
I don't either. But these personalities are naturally going to come into this, and whenever you're faced with having to make this decision, and I didn't realize this was my decision to make in the moment, but you have everyone coming to you telling you what you should be doing and how you should do it. And to me, that was very overwhelming, because everyone had a very strong opinion on what should happen next with the VOAD. And so hindsight, looking back in the state of where it is, where we have now instituted leadership and working on processes and meeting quarterly and doing exercises, it's not perfect. We're not there, but everybody has a vision. And what I've learned is, when people came to me, they were wanting to cast a vision. They were telling me where we should be, not where we need to be today. And that's what I've learned in that is it takes time to make progress, that it takes people, that all that input helped, and then moving us forward. I really tried to work with them, with the people that had the vision, and say, all right, where do we want to go? And then I've watched boards where, like Katie said, you are replacing an executive director. That board chair and the leadership at the time filled in, unless there was someone else in that organization to fill in as interim director. That board chair, I watched an organization, she was like 8 months pregnant, and she rocked it and did this whole selection of a new board executive director, and she served as in the child care world, and they picked a great director. But as a board, you're not just there to, I think, pass time. You are definitely there, and especially as you enter into the leadership role, you are there to consult on issues that arise, because nonprofits, as any other business and organization, hits bumps in the road, whether they're legal or personnel or disasters. So while you deal with your family and your organization that you work for, sometimes that nonprofit will demand your at least input and attention in those moments.
All right, I'm going to ask one more question to our panel, and then I want to open it up for a few questions. Sound good? All right, so I think this one's a good one to end on. What are the essential qualities or skills that make a successful board member, and how can individuals develop these attributes over time?
You must know parliamentary procedure. I'm just kidding. I only bring that up because I think sometimes people are like, oh, I don't know what that means, or like, oh, I'm going to move and motion and and all that, right? That's the last thing a board member should be concerned about. And I just
but you'll get called out if you don't do it.
Right. I mean, there's always a Robert's Rule person in the room, right? No. So I just bring that up because it's very simple to follow. Just pay attention and you'll be aware. But don't be scared of that. But qualities, I think, like I said, be excited, right? Be excited about what you're doing. And I want everyone to know that I think being on a nonprofit is very much a two-way street. I think that you are given a lot of yourself and your skills, but you're also getting so much in return, whether it's a reward for, you're not getting paid, obviously, but you're getting rewards like, you help do this or that. But the other thing about it is, like, if you want to get to know more people in the community, I think it's such a great networking opportunity. I was just going through in my head, I'm like, on the boards up, I have a carpet cleaner, I have a banker, I have an accountant. So I've got, if I need disaster assistance, I mean, yeah, those sorts of things. But you get a lot out of it, and the idea also is like you want your company and your bosses to know that you're out there representing the company well too. So I think that's important to remember too. That's not why you're there. You're there to help overall. But just preparing, knowing the organization, knowing going over the bylaws, getting prepared, being there, being positive and happy.
I think what makes a board unique are the unique qualities and skills each of us has, and allowing the nonprofit to use those. So kind of when we talked about fundraising, everybody can fundraise in different ways, whether it's the person who can go to anybody and ask them for anything. We all want to be that person, but we're not all that person. To the person who just wants to help with the event, set it up, tear it down, be that worker bee, do the decorations, like they have poured their soul into this event that's going to raise money, or the person who will host an event at their house. I would never do that personally, but there are people out there who would love to host and have people in their homes and serve, and but to be able to tell the mission of the organization or to host one of those events. And so I think we all think differently, the way we process things. I think next door they're doing the Enneagram. We're all wired differently. The Working Genius kind of tells you how you think and how you work. We don't need a board to be all one way. We need the unique skills and qualities of each person. And I would say that just being able to be you and to ask questions. Do not be afraid to ask questions. Do not be afraid to, and that's, for some people, that's how they process things, but don't be afraid to hurt people's feelings, or you're probably not. You're probably asking questions that other people are thinking that might not be asking. But to really operate and to make sure things don't go overlooked or things don't get missed, you've got to have those different ways of processing things, the way you do it. You've got to be able to present that in a board meeting or in a setting or to the leadership, to make sure that you feel good about what you're doing, but that things aren't getting overlooked. And even that brainstorming piece that we just heard about at lunch, I think being able to use those skills, if that's your way of thinking or your gift, helping the nonprofits think through different ways to do things and approaching things differently, because a lot of times we get stuck in our ways or things we've already tried before, but having board members who can push us and who can really make us think differently and do differently. So I would just say be you and bring those qualities and skills, and maybe even ask on the front end one of those questions: why are you asking me to be on your board? What do you need? Do you need a picture taker? Do you need a social media person? Do you need a lawyer? Do you need the financial person? Like, what are those skills that they're seeing in you that maybe you can use as you serve?
Yeah, that is great. Sometimes I think right now even we need young people on boards with new ideas to ask the obvious question of why are we doing this the way we are doing it. There's a fence, and there might be, I'm going to mess this up, but someone's like, there's a fence. You come to a fence. You don't take the fence down. You figure out why the fence is there first. If the fence makes sense, keep the fence up, maybe put a gate. If it doesn't make sense anymore, take the fence down, so then you can look at how to do it differently. That might not make sense. It makes sense in my head. But ask dumb questions, and I think there's a lot of creativity that people don't dream. You don't dream. You don't express an idea or a creative initiative that you think will be really cool. Or you want to start a new nonprofit, so you go to the community foundation. You're like, hey, I have this really great idea. Do we need more nonprofits? Maybe. I don't know. I won't answer that. But there are existing organizations with infrastructure and governance, and they're already nonprofit with a 501c3, which is not easy to get, I don't think. I've never tried. So take these creative ideas and initiatives to your board or to an organization. You're like, hey, that is cool. I like Big Brothers Big Sisters or the Salvation Army, and I have this really cool idea on how we can feed people or how we can shelter people. Or have you thought about partnering with this business? And because we really want to help, we want to volunteer, we want to do this with our business. Pick an organization. You bring something to the table that is if you work at First Financial or Aero Ford or any other organization, you're bringing that to that table. You're bringing the resources of that organization to that board to say, let's partner. And I think just having that idea of always being able to say, let's partner on this, let's do something new, or something that is old, and put some lipstick on it. But I like new. I think we're good there.
All right, we've got a few minutes left. I want to open it up to a couple questions if we can. So I'm going to walk around, and hopefully this mic doesn't freak out. Ladies first, Rostin, sorry.
Is there a comprehensive list of nonprofits that are needing board members?
Great question. We actually just launched a website back in December, and it's called nonprofitcompass.org, and it is a directory of local nonprofits who have gone in there and registered and put their profiles there. It's the same platform that we use for the Abilene Gives Day. I think right now we have about 93 nonprofits who have a completed profile, and it's a great way for you to go look and see what's out there. You can actually search by field of interest if you want to look for an animals organization or arts or education or elderly, whatever it is you're looking for. The other thing you can do is if you click on the search little spyglass in the top, it'll bring up some options on the very far right. And you can select to look for board opportunities. I think there are actually 35 listed right now, 35 organizations looking for board members. There are volunteer opportunities, and there are job opportunities. And so you can, if you click on one of those to filter out by that, then it'll bring up all those organizations who have a job opening or volunteer board. And then whenever you get to the profile, there are several tabs down there that you can kind of look at different pieces, but the Get Involved tab, which is on the very far right, is the one you go to see if they have any board openings, job openings, or volunteer opportunities. And that's a great place to go. We're trying to, after Abilene Gives, we'll push another kind of promotion or kind of getting our nonprofits, more of them signed up so that we have a more comprehensive list. But that's probably going to be, unless you go to AbileneGives.org and actually looked at that list of participating nonprofits, but that doesn't have that type of information on that website.
Airman, did y'all write that down? My DICE people? Captain, I know you wrote that down. There we go.
Also, on that piece, again, if you're a nonprofit, are you and you're looking for a board member right now, raise your hand, or you will be for the future. So they're in the room right now. I would
Danielle
say,
is like about to explode out of her chair.
Come up to the front at the end and network. That's also a great way right now.
All right, Rostin. Website?
Nonprofitcompass.org, COMPASS.
I apologize if this is a bit of a grenade of a question, but are there any specific red flags that you would suggest people look for whenever they're looking at serving on a particular nonprofit's board?
For me, just kind of top of mind would be if they're not willing to share information with you on the front end, if you're trying to look at their financials or minutes of their last few board meetings, or if you're trying to dig, just trying to make sure everything looks good and you're not getting that good vibe or they're not sharing, I would say that would throw up a red flag. Or if you can't find much, on the internet about them, if it's a very quiet, hush-hush nonprofit, if they're not out there telling their story.
Yeah, I think that's good. Does everyone know what a 990 is? Yeah. So you can always look up that and find out all their information, their financial information that way as well. I think it's a very, very good way. GuideStar, you can look up all of that and find out more about the financials, as you know, Rostin. So,
Steph, we got time for one more?
Sorry, this is not a great question for the last one, but I'll go with it. First, I would say 990s are awesome, but reading them is like reading Aramaic, so good luck with that. I do have a question. It's kind of I don't mean for it to be a negative question, but let's say you do all your research and you volunteer for an organization, everything's working out great, and you find yourself, on a 3-year commitment or something like that, right? And then 18 months in, you have a real problem, internal conflict, ethical, whatever the case may be. What's the process, or how have you guys run into that before, where you had to resign due to whatever the issue may be? Because that is a possibility. So,
Good question.
just quickly for me, I had a career switch, if you will, and so I had to lessen some of mine because I travel for work, and just being very open and honest, I think is a way of doing that with the executive director and the board chair and or whoever. So I think being very open and honest about, commitments change, life changes. Maybe you have to move, maybe you have to get married. Not have to, but
Yeah, I think, a lot of times you'll see them write a letter to the board or to the executive director, just, giving your reasons why, or if, it's private, you can be private about it. I think a board, a nonprofit would rather you get off if it's not a good fit for you, rather than staying on. It'd probably make it miserable for maybe the other board members or the executive director. So I think sometimes that happens, and I wouldn't be afraid to admit that and move on.
Okay, well, we will go ahead and wrap it up. If y'all have any other questions, I'm sure they'll be up here for a few more minutes. Feel free to come on up and ask. And thank y'all so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.